Too many women waste the best years of their lives with guys who are obvious jerks. But most women after 40 don't get hooked onto those guys. The biggest challenge comes when you connect with someone who is exciting, fun, refreshing, new, different, validating. And there's hidden traits in that guy that are not obvious and glaring, but create a condition that makes a relationship that's fulfilling and fun actually impossible. So what I want to do today is I want to point out 5 traits in men that are not the most obvious ones, that are not the ones that most people are shouting to the 4 winds. He's a narcissist. These are traits that get most human beings who are smart, accomplished, hooked into the wrong dynamic. And we don't have forever to figure this out. If you're someone who craves deep intimacy, who's decided, I don't want to leave this earth without finding my human, then understanding how this works is going to make a huge difference in your ability to detect red flags that you're not aware of, that may be blind spots for you right now, in a way that's simple, direct, and give you the ability to step into the best chapter of your life right now. So if you've ever thought to yourself, man, I wish I'd known this sooner as it relates to men, you definitely want to stick around for this video, because I'm going to show you right now things that can prevent you from going through the same pain you've gone through ever again, and allow you the capacity, the X-ray vision, to visualize and to identify the guys who can actually go the distance so you can connect with them sooner and create the love story that your heart has been longing for years. I want to acknowledge you for being here, because there's so many things you can be doing with your time right now. So I commend you for spending some time listening to someone who's taken 14 years of his life, that's me, to guide hundreds of women personally to find their ideal life partner, their love story. Why this is so important if you're 40, 50, 60 and beyond, because we don't have a runway that's unlimited. We get this one life to make something amazing work. And if we spend 5, 10, 15 years with the wrong person or with the wrong people again and again, for patterns that we can't see, blind spots, but had we have more of an idea of what's going on, we could have avoided all that pain. That's why I'm so passionate about sharing how you can start making better decisions with men right now for things that are not the most obvious. You connect with a guy who shouts all the time. Okay, it's a challenge. A guy who's gaslighting and you have the wherewithal, because sometimes it's hard to recognize this guy's a narcissist. Cool, you can move forward. But what happens when there's things that are more nuanced and confusing, but there's other forces like gravity that are pulling you towards these men? That's when things get challenging. And that's why I'm so happy you're here today. The first type of guy, which is incredibly dangerous, and that's why I'm starting with him. Because if you listen to just this part of the video, I want to make sure you at least take this with you. And that is the guy that I call the fire starter. And the fire starter is the hot and cold guy, is the guy that comes in heavy and strong. And I'm not talking about a narcissist that's love bombing you. It's more nuanced than that. It's a guy who's exciting, who seems to have things going on for his life. He's charming. He is good looking. Maybe he has some financial advantage over the other guy. So it just feels so compelling. The aura of this guy is magnetic, and you feel seen, and you feel heard, and you feel understood, and you feel, oh my God, where have you been all my life? And you have a conversation with them, and it goes into 3 a.m, and it's been hours and hours. And finally, some part of you says, oh my God, I found my guy. And then you notice that when things start getting a little intimate, this guy tends to vanish. I'm not necessarily talking about just an avoidant guy. It's a little more complex than that. You connect, he showers you with excitement and fun, not over the top, but still in a way that's passionate. And then sometimes he disappears. Sometimes he texts you long threads. Sometimes he replies 3 days later. And you start noticing that this hot and cold experience is taking place. I've created many videos around this, and maybe I'll link some underneath so you can watch them if you're interested. It's called intermittent reinforcement. There's the reason why people waste billions of dollars every single year on casinos, because you win one time, you lose 5 times. But the one time that you win starts feeling super addictive. It's something that hits your dopamine and your reward system in your nervous system. And when that takes place, it's a very addictive situation, because you start craving that thing that is inconsistent. He shows up sometimes, he doesn't show up sometimes, and your nervous system is hijacked, and you start craving and going through withdrawals of that high that he provides, that dopamine rush. And then when he goes away, there's anticipation, there's anxiety. But guess what? It's not boring. It's not something that you feel blah or meh about. You may not realize how challenging it is until you get some help, or maybe you get a chance to witness how outside of yourself you've been. And you recognize this is the case when you notice that there's a lot of intensity, but then distance. You feel connected. And then, even though you want the connection to continue, he stops it or ignores it, even worse. Be very aware of this type of dynamic, because once you get hooked, you can be the smartest human being, the most accomplished, the most self-aware, and still, because this is so strong in your nervous system, you might fall for someone like this for months or years. I've connected with many women who've been in situationships with someone who's the almost always ready guy, never quite ready. And then 5 years later, he's still showing up, long passion at night, disappearance. The next guy that is alluring for many human beings, especially if you've been in a relationship with someone who's slightly on edge or has anger issues or is slightly abusive or downright abusive, is what I call the Zen master. And that's someone who feels really chill, someone who feels grounded. Those are good signs, right? Obviously. But he's grounded at a level that is disconnected. There's a difference between someone who is grounded and has the capacity for depth and someone who's grounded but never quite goes the distance. So, how do you recognize when this is happening? As I said, if your nervous system has thrived with chaos before and you're so tired of it and you finally connect with someone, and this is a very masculine quality. If you connect with someone who doesn't seem shaken by the world, who things can be falling off and he still finds some resourcefulness, that's an exciting quality for most women specifically. When you connect with someone like this, but then the moment comes for depth, for sharing something intimate, for being vulnerable, and he just cannot go there. You have the essence of being seen and witnessed, but then when more skin in the game is required, when you're sharing something intimate and want to gauge not just what he's thinking, but what he's feeling, you get the same glazed eye look that's Zen like, which seems exciting at first, but then starts becoming a bit of a disconnect. Someone who doesn't have the capacity to experience emotions and to express emotions well. You don't want a guy who's falling at the slightest sign of trouble and alarms ring and he's passionate, but he's also just explosive. You also don't want a guy who is seemingly very chill, but he's avoiding connection, he's avoiding intimacy, he's avoiding deep conversations, or he has those deep conversations, but no show of emotion. If you're someone who wants to feel seen and heard and understood, you want for a guy to be able to emote and to connect to his feelings. Now, before I share the last three types of guys, which are really powerful for you to learn about, if you're a single woman watching this, I'd be willing to bet that you are unaware of your deepest blind spot. And what I've done is I've taken 14 years of helping women from every walk of life to experience deep connections and to find the love of their lives. And I put together a quiz you can take in about 60 seconds that will reveal to you the number one reason you're still single. If you want to participate, all you have to do is go to the first link in the description. You'll see a page that looks like this, somewhere here on the screen. All you have to do is answer a few questions within 60 seconds. You'll get two things: the answer to the elusive question why you're still single, and a custom report based on your unique blind spot that will share with you the number one thing you can do today, actionably, to attract the relationship you want in a fraction of the time. The third type of guy might seem obviously like not the guy for you, but it's more tricky than that. And I call this guy the debater. And the debater is a guy that at the beginning, there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of banter. And maybe this guy is funny with an edge of sarcasm sometimes, funny with an edge of maybe not just self-deprecating humor, but about other people. Maybe not you at the beginning, but other people. Now, it starts this way, and then it starts becoming clear that there's an intellectual connection with this guy. I want a dumb guy, said no one. I've never connected with a woman who says, I want a guy who's really dumb. But I've connected with thousands of women, literally, who've said to me, I want a guy who's intellectually stimulating. So this guy is intellectually stimulating. It just so happens that he gets off emotionally by conflict. He gets off by arguing. He gets off by introducing passive aggressive statements that will end up, if you're not careful about it, into a 3-hour discussion about the color of the cereal. You might think this is ridiculous, but if you've ever been in a relationship with someone who likes to argue and fight, this is not an exaggeration. So what happens when you connect with someone who is this way, and it doesn't start explosive first, but it starts gradually going this way? Your normalized brain may not catch the difference between something that is becoming toxic and something that is still stimulating, because you have the idea of the first time you connected with them. So how do you know you're in this type of relationship? Well, when you start fearing simple conversations, when something that is basic that you'll be able to share with a best friend becomes something that you start doubting, because you start playing in your head, if I say this, this might happen. And if this happens, then this will happen. If this happens, then, oh my God, it's going to be an hour and a half of conversations about something that should be so simple. When you catch yourself in a relationship with someone who has that smart intellect, capacity to abstract things in life and recite a lot of facts, but is conflict driven, almost gets juiced up, their brain needs that type of fight to feel at peace. And they may not be shaken off after the encounter, but you feel like someone punched you with a boxing glove in your head 50 times. So be very aware of that intellectual stimulation that actually ends up turning into this passive aggressive conflict, hours and hours of discussion about things that do not make sense, that are sucking the precious, beautiful, only life that you have. The fourth type of guy that tends to get women in trouble is what I call the free spirit, the spontaneous, adventurous, passionate, insightful, fun free spirit. Nothing wrong with a guy who has those qualities. The challenge when this becomes toxic in a relationship is when that free spirit is actually a bypassing of responsibility, of holding into the things that are important and meaningful in life, making decisions, making commitments, putting your life on edge for something, for someone, not just being all about yourself, but being willing to sacrifice for something that is a good cause. When you connect with someone who's such a fun spirit, but then you start recognizing through conversations that as long as things are light and fun, things are cool. But when you talk about responsibility, when you talk about plans that are not just fun weekend trip hiking in the Appalachian Mountains, but you're talking about maybe connecting with families or having difficult discussions about things that are not fun, money, disagreements. And the guy seems to be really averse to committing to something that is not fun and light and adventurous. The spontaneity thing starts wearing off and starts becoming a true excuse for delayed gratification and for stepping into things in life that require sweat and tears and hardship. Because a relationship is going to be something that shouldn't be pulling teeth, but also is not a walk in the park all the time. It's going to require ups and downs. It's going to require difficult conversations. It's going to require planning and boring shit that is not necessarily just fun and adventurous. So if you connect with a guy who has this free spirit, but is really averse to assuming responsibility in life, assuming that taking charge of something beyond himself graciously, courageously, with heart, a disaster awaits you in the midst of that relationship. The last type of guy that I want to talk about right now is what I kindly label as the storyteller. The storyteller is a guy who maybe he reads a lot. Maybe he is a poet of sorts. Maybe he's an artist. He's literate. He can quote verses. He can hold his ground on a conversation about almost any topic. So he's a very smart dude who loves to share stories. It's very captivating because he can talk and you can feel mesmerized with the conversations that he has. However, when the tables are turned and it's your turn to share, he doesn't know how to hold that space. He doesn't know how to hold that same level of attention when he's not getting it. I'm not talking about a narcissist. I'm talking about a guy who has little capacity to hold deep, vulnerable, passionate, nuanced space for someone who can't connect with you if he's not sharing something. He gets slightly bored if you're sharing ideas with him, or he might hear you out, but there's not much coming out from him. There's not a lot of depth of feeling. There's not a lot of insight. There's not a lot of skin in the game when it comes to being hungry, really hungry for meeting you. Almost as if this hunger for knowledge and wisdom outwardly is a bypassing of depth and intimacy and vulnerability and nuance and the kind of thing that makes any relationship worth the suffering that you'll encounter, no matter how great it is. So I'm not here to say all these guys are going to be easily identifiable just like that. But I'm here to say that if you have the pattern in mind, if you're playing chess and you know about the Russian opening, then you might be more likely to know when someone is doing that opening and know how to counter with a defense. But when you're unaware of it, it's just pieces moving. And then lo and behold, you get checkmated really quickly. My idea right now is not that you are averse to connecting with men, is that you connect with men knowing that some of the signs that will get you in trouble are not big and glaring and they don't happen all at once. And they're not the things that are super obvious. They're also, it has nothing to do with your intelligence. You can be a super smart, very beautiful, highly accomplished woman and still fall for guys who can create this dynamic. And the one thing that you see in the thread of the entire 5 types of guys that I'm talking about is the charm, is the fun flair, is the excitement, the explosion, the chemistry. Most of us are secretly optimizing, regardless of what we say. You can talk to someone and says, I'm going for a guy who is intelligent, but also kind and gentle. BS. Most people are optimizing secretly for dopamine. Most people are optimizing for chemistry. And if you're not aware, if you're not standing at the door of your heart and your mind very courageously, you will go for that dopamine, the charming, empty calories that make your life feel fun in the moment, but miserable long-term. Hope this is helpful, useful, insightful. If it is, it would mean the world to me because this is the only way I can grow and share my work with more women. If you click like and subscribe, more important than any of that, share this video today, please, with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to continue learning how you can attract the guy you want without the need for gimmicks, manipulation, games, or stupid techniques, make sure to watch the next video right here.